Hey guys, Adam Cesare here again, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to teach you how to prepare an Egyptian feast. Okay, that's not true. I'm not going to teach you how to prepare an Egyptian feast. Instead, I'm going to tell you about a cool event I went to last weekend, and then I'm going to do my top 5 Herschel Gordon Lewis films. Herschel Gordon Lewis, the godfather of gore, of course, the inventor of the gore picture, at least the American gore picture. He is a older gentleman. He's mainly worked in the 60s and 70s, and he came to Philly for a really cool event that Exhumed Films here in Philly did, where they showed 5 Herschel Gordon Lewis gore films, and they had Lewis introduce many of them and talk to the crowd and answer questions. It was a really, really great experience. Exhumed does a lot of this kind of stuff. They do a 24-hour horror-thon around Halloween time. They do a 12-hour X-Fest, which is exploitation films. They create cool little things like this to have for sale. Like this is a Wizard of Gore pin. It's like a vinyl pin there, or a enamel pin that I picked up at the show, which I thought was really cool. But this is a t-shirt show, not a pin show, so I'm not gonna put this on my t-shirt yet. I also got a paperback copy of Color Me Blood Red, the novelization, signed by Mr. Lewis, and was able to ask during the Q&A portion what the impetus behind writing his own novelizations was, and shockingly enough, his answer was because you don't have to pay anyone if you write your novelization yourself. So, Herschel Gordon Lewis probably needs no introduction for everyone here. In the early 1960s, 1963, he made a movie called Blood Feast, which is actually the number 5 movie on my list. Blood Feast, a strange fellow named Fuad Ramses that lives in this Florida town is going to prepare an Egyptian feast for a older woman and her to celebrate the birthday of her daughter. And there's been all these crazy murders happening. Some young woman's getting her tongue ripped out here. Someone's getting their legs taken out here. So there's clearly something going on, and Fuad has something to do with it. It takes a crack investigator who can't seem to find a clue to get to the bottom of these ghastly murders and figure out and to try to stop the blood feast from taking place. So, not my favorite Lewis film, but also one that I acknowledge is very historically important. Maybe the most historically important thing that Lewis has done, except maybe my number 4 choice, which is, I have a visual aid for this one. My number 4 film is Scum of the Earth. Lewis made films. Lewis and his producing partner David S. Friedman made films falling into the nudie cutie or sexploitation subgenre, and this is a subgenre of that. It is the roughie. So it is movies that I guess they're meant to tantalize a little bit, as much as making a movie in 1963. They made this 2 weeks after, I believe. I just read online. They made this 2 weeks after Blood Feast. So it is a little black and white, cheapy, but it does birth the roughy subgenre, which is tantalization, kind of along with a weird morality tale, along with just making you feel uncomfortable. These are very unwoke films, especially this and another movie later in the video I'm going to get to. But they are kind of really interesting historical artifacts, especially if you're into the history of exploitation film and you're into horror film. This one's not really a horror film, but Blood Feast definitely is. Number 3 on my list is the gruesome twosome. Also something that they showed during the Exhumed Films marathon. The gruesome twosome is one of the funnier, or deliberately funnier, of Lewis's gore films. It involves a little old lady that has a wig shop, and she's like selling these wigs to sorority girls and people like that. You bring in a bit of your hair and she'll match the exact color. But the way she's going about getting these wigs is she has her mentally challenged son scalp people and scalp women, and that is how she gets the wigs. So it is, it sounds brutal when you put it like that, but it is a weird, weird comedy. There are these long, for a short movie, long digressions where Lewis sets part of it at a drive-in theater, and then the kids are watching a fake kind of foreign film, and you get to see how Lewis looks at artistic pretension. And I think Gruesome Twosome is very telling in that way, because when Lewis was introducing these films, he talked about his kind of ethos, and he talked about the idea that he doesn't strive to make good films, quote unquote. He strives to make entertaining films, and he doesn't strive to please everybody. He strives to please a certain audience, an audience that he knows is out there that will find this stuff and like this stuff. And that's kind of the story of his career. He worked in a bunch of different genres, but they were always attempts at being commercially viable pictures that entertained an audience, entertained a certain audience, and would repel or just not plain before other audiences. So I take that to heart, and I really like that idea. Lewis, along with his producing partner David Friedman, and Roger Corman, are one of the few filmmakers where I genuinely enjoy watching their films, but I actually appreciate them more as business people than I do filmmakers. And I think Lewis and Corman would have absolutely no problem admitting to that and having that be something that someone appreciates about their work. Okay, number 2, maybe because it has a hero or hero, anti-hero named Adam at the center, but I love Color Me Blood Red. It was during the screening, it was introduced by Frank Henenlotter, the director of Basket Case and Brain Damage and Bad Biology and Frankenhooker. So a fantastic director in his own right. Henenlotter had nothing but nice things to say about the look of the film, Color Me Blood Red. All of these films, I think pretty much all the ones on this list were shot in Florida, and in this great, except for Scum of the Earth, in this great kind of color, and they're bright looking movies even though they're horror movies, and you can't see that more than you see it in Color Me Blood Red. Beautiful scenery, beautiful beaches, primary colors. It's a cool looking movie. Adam, our failed mediocre artist, realizes that he gets better use out of the color red when it's actually blood taken from someone. So at first he starts cutting himself, and then he realizes he needs to instigate this to get the materials he needs to make his pictures. A fun movie, a funny movie, a kind of as close to meta as Lewis's films get, because we are reflecting back on an artist who's using blood to get people's attention, both commercially and artistically. So I love that movie. And Lewis acknowledges that this is his best film himself. My favorite and my number 1 pick for top Herschel Gordon Lewis film is 2000 Maniacs. 2000 Maniacs, Lewis told this story a little bit beforehand, and he also tells the story in the documentary Godfather of Gore, if you want to check that out. He tells this story that after Blood Feast, and after they were seeing the returns on Blood Feast when it was a huge hit at drive-ins, and they were kind of rolling it out like city by city because they didn't have that many prints, he kind of turned to David Friedman and he said, well, if we made this much money with this, what if we make an actual good movie with the next one? And that's 2000 Maniacs. Through modern eyes, it maybe has pacing problems, it maybe has more endings than the last Lord of the Rings movie has, but it has some of the coolest kills in a Herschel Gordon Lewis film, and some of the best kind of satire comedy, because 2000 Maniacs concerns a group of cross-state travelers who are driving through the South. They're Yankees, and they get kind of pulled over, tricked into going to this middle of nowhere town in the South where they're going to celebrate a centennial. They don't tell the people what the centennial is, but needless to say, the centennial celebration involves killing and eating Yankees. So kind of a level of satire at work where you're not 100% sure through the movie and through the theme song that we sang along during the film. At what level are we supposed to sympathize with these crazy southern rednecks that are an entire town, kids to adults, in this kind of conspiracy? But I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's one of those, not only one of those "what am I watching" kind of movies, but why am I watching, and what is the intent here? It's a fun movie to pick apart, and it's just fun and funny and moves fast and has a guy getting put in a barrel and then nails in that barrel and then they roll it down a hill. Which is if you don't want to see a movie with that in it, I don't know what you're doing watching 12 minutes of this video. So yeah, that was I mentioned I have very few visual aids with me for this episode, so I'm putting up all the posters because I can't seem to find my discs for the Something Weird discs. But Godfather of Gore, this is co-directed by Frank Henenlotter and Jimmy Maulson, who Jimmy Maulson owns the rights to most of, if not all of, Lewis's films. He was there at the show too, and he introduced Lewis at one point. For the book recommendation this week, I'm in this. This is The Gruesome Twosome, edited by Nick Cato. Nick, I actually met for the first time at this event, but I was in this book way before that. It's a bunch of authors, 10 authors to be exact, writing tributes to Herschel Gordon Lewis, short story tributes. And because that's kind of a cheat, not a real book recommendation, my real book recommendation for this week is Muerte con Carne by Shane McKenzie. For my money, there's no one working in horror fiction that does a better job of kind of that weird, exaggerated, funny, knowing style that Lewis has than Shane McKenzie. This book is about, it's kind of it is the Tex-Mex Chainsaw Massacre. It is about a family of kind of inbred freaks that catches people as they're trying to cross over from the U.S. From Mexico to the U.S. Forces them to wrestle their kind of El Gigante, their giant lucha libre leatherface guy, and then turns them into Mexican food. So clearly, the satire, the levels of satire and stuff like that we see in Lewis's work is at play here, even if it's not deliberate. I'm not sure if Shane McKenzie knows Lewis like I do, but I see it in his work, and I love this book. I think. No, I'm not even. They didn't even have me blurb this book. I read it too, but I like this book a lot. So Shane McKenzie, Muerte con Carne, getting made into a movie. I think it already was a short film, El Gigante, and they're making a feature of it. I think. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't know if I have that inside information. I should probably check that before I put it on the internet. All right, guys, that was my top 5 Herschel Gordon Lewis films, along with some rambling in between. If you like this video, please hit like. If you really like this video, subscribe and go check out my other videos on the channel. I got all kinds of stuff. I always do at least one movie review and at least one book pairing with that movie. Check me out. I'm Adam Cesare. If you go to my website, I've got a free ebook for you if you want to sign up for my mailing list. If you don't want to sign up for my mailing list, you can still go click around on my website, check out my books. Thank you. All right. Have a good day, guys.